Hello, this is District of Cinema with Benjamin Price, and today I'll be interviewing Fernando Trueba about They Shot the Piano Player. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
So I'm always curious, what was the creative genesis of this film for you?
Yeah, it's been a very special movie because the whole thing started like 18 years ago when I discovered this musician, this person, his music, a bit like it happens in the movie, no? I was listening to a record and then with a lot of my favorite Brazilian jazz players, and there was this pianist I never heard of, no? So I started getting interested and trying to listen other things of him. And then it was at that time, internet was not as developed as it is now. So it was not easy to find informations and things, but and I was also asking Brazilian friends who are musicians, because he was not a famous figure or popular one, and some knew him and tell me just bits of things, you know. So that's how I discovered the story of what happened to him, more or less in parallel with discovering his music, you know. So like after 1 year later, I couldn't. I was always asking about him, and I couldn't take his this man out of my mind. So I decided, let's start doing maybe some interviews, not very professionally, very amateurish at the beginning. No, I was thinking maybe I can do a documentary, maybe a book. I wasn't sure, but I was shooting the interviews with a video camera, and then it started to become more serious in the process. So we start to organize, to look for the people. I take an assistant to help me in Brazil and that. So during, let's say, 2 years approximately, I interview like 140 people in Brazil, Argentina, in the United States, in LA, in New York, in Boston, in Arizona. Only 30 something, 33 or something like that ended in the movie, just bits, no, of these interviews, who were all kind of long, no, more or less 1 hour interviews. Some interviews were longer than that, 2 or 3 hours, when there were like his widow or his lover, or characters who had a lot to tell, no?
Yeah.
But so I did all these interviews, and I was kind of overwhelmed by all this material. I didn't knew what to do exactly, no, in which way. So I had other projects, and the most immediate one was Chico and Rita, my first animation. Animation was a new language for me. I did it with Mariscal also, and but the Tenorio story was always there. So, but I couldn't find. I start after Chico and Rita. I start really to consider that maybe animation was the best way to tell that story. But I did another couple of movies, and then I was convinced that it should be made in animation. Then I wrote a screenplay. I get through the whole hours of interviews and taking notes and things, and with all this, I start writing a screenplay for thinking I'm writing for an animation movie, who is going to be most a documentary, but I wanted from the beginning to use some of the, how you will say, the not the tricks, the style, that you use more in fiction movies than in animation or documentaries. And I don't mean doing fiction, because I've been absolutely respectful to the real thing, no? But I wanted to tell it in a fiction style, even if the material is reality, no? So in a cinematic way, no, using many of the proceedings of that I use in normal live action movies when I'm doing movies. So that's how I wrote the screenplay, and that's how I did the storyboard and the visual approach to the story.
Well, and so you found this story a long time ago, but I'm curious, at what point in the evolution of this project did you come up with the framing device with Jeff Goldblum?
When I was writing the screenplay,
Mhm.
at the very beginning, I thought of Jeff, who is a friend who we worked 30 years ago, who is for me the most incredible voice in movies. He has his voice is like a jazz man playing, and he's a pianist too, who is a great coincidence. But there is something that I love about Jeff's voice is he's jazzy when he speaks. No, his way of delivering a line. You can never. He's not previsible. You say in English, previsible. You can't know what he's gonna do or how he's gonna do it. No, he always surprises you. No, and I love that of working with him very much. And so I put in the screenplay the name Jeff to the character, just and I cross my fingers, saying I hope when the screenplay is finished, he likes it and wants to do it. No? And he liked it and he accepted to do it. So it was a big luck for us, no? For the movie. So I always like working with him.
Nobody says anything quite like he does.
Exactly.
So, and Chico and Rita also had was very much rooted in like the soundtrack. What sort of draws you to telling stories that are so driven by music?
Yeah, I don't know why, but music has been around in my movies, mostly all of the time since the beginning. No, since my very first movie. No, there were musicians, characters. Some were more centered in music and some less. Not all of them, but music has been very important. I've worked with some of the, for me, greatest composers also in movie music, like the French Antoine Diamel, who became a great friend of mine, who was a musician with Truffaut and with Godard and with Tavernier and many people. Then in the last years, I collaborate with Zbigniew Preisner, the Polish composer who did most of Kieslowski movies and a lot of them. And I like working with him. We've done several movies. So not only this movies about music, but the importance of music in my movies is always strong, no? And it's curious because there is a lot of coincidence between this one and Chico and Rita, and a lot of differences, no? Like in Chico and Rita, the story, the movie, asked me for recreating the whole music 100%, to record it again, no? And this one asked for the complete opposite, to use the real music, because I wanted the movie to be very, very real. No, Chico and Rita is more like a tale. No, it's like a we in Chico and Rita we adopt a kind of classic Hollywood language, also because we were the story was taking place in the 40s and the 50s. This one is more real documentary, is more rough, is more broken language and more broken animation. No, we didn't wanted a very perfect close animation. It will be against the movie, no, if we did it that way. So it was very important for Mariscal and I to find the textures, the techniques, and the colors for an experiment like this, because this movie is quite, for me, we were trying a lot of new things for us too. We were not doing a typical commercial animation movie, not at
Right.
all, just the opposite.
And in doing all those interviews, you said something like 140 at earlier on in this project. I imagine the fun part about making a movie about someone who really existed was getting to show it to the people who were part of their life. So who have you shown of those interviews you did? Who have you gotten to show this movie to? And what have some of the best reactions been?
You know, people were very surprised that after all this year, someone was interested in Tenorio. And they were so happy that I was doing it, that they opened their memories, their houses, their time for me to talk to them, because they felt like there was some justice being done on these great musicians. No? So they were very collaborative, all of them. Some of them were really emotional. It was incredible, because at the time I was doing the interviews, it was like maybe 37 after his disappearance, no? And his death. And still people were talking about him, and then suddenly started crying in the middle of a phrase like that. And I had to wait for them to recover, and they could keep on talking to me. No, so that was very impressive. No, that after all these years, it's normal if they are the widow or their sons or things like that, but with his fellow musicians, his friends, it was very, very strong, no, to see these people, grown-up people, crying in front of you just to remember him, That was really amazing. I really became into it at a level that very few times in my life I've been so involved in something like this. No? It was, for a moment, it was like an obsession. I remember we were doing Chico and Rita for several years, and in every dinner, Mariscal always thought, I had not talked about him about making animation because it was not yet an animation thing, but we were discussing about everything, no? And the last movie, the last book, what happened, the politics, whatever. And I was always talking about Tenorio. He still remembers that, no? So the day I proposed him, Xavi, would you like to work on this as an animation? He was very happy, and he already knew most of it, no? Because I was talked so much to him.
Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for doing the questions.
This is District of Cinema with Benjamin Price signing off.
Thank you.